but you gotta be brave enough to step into the ring. Put your guard up and fight back.
Do y'all know who Joyce Grayson is? I want to tell you who she is. She is the nurse that went to work to see a patient assigned to her that never returned home to her children or her grandchildren. Miss Grayson worked for a home health company called Elara Caring. It says, according to the news reports, it's based out of Dallas, but this happened in Connecticut. She was assigned to go to check on, treat, visit a patient who lived in a halfway house, who was wearing an ankle monitor, who supposedly had violent tendencies and was a registered sex offender. Okay? When she didn't return home or didn't show up to her next case or what have you, her family tracked her GPS to this halfway house. She was found dead in the basement. His ankle monitor reportedly had been tampered with. He had some type of drug paraphernalia on him and was found with some of her credit cards. His name is Michael Reese. He's been arrested. Okay, he's been arrested. But Miss Grayson is gone. Her family will never see her again. How does this happen? I'm not saying that everyone doesn't deserve health care, but this was an unsafe assignment. She went there alone. She was going to this type of patient encounter, makes her or anyone vulnerable to go somewhere like that unassisted. This is sad, and I hope that there is some legislation, some pressure, something done so that this does not happen to anyone else.
Okay, hear me out. Is it just me, or does the food not food the way that it used to food? You know, like I'm hungry, but nothing sounds good. And then I eat, and it don't really taste that good. Like, what happened to the food? I cannot be alone in this.
I have a question. Who made the universal decision that we should eat lunch at 12? Who decided that it should take 4 years apiece to finish high school and college? Who made the decision that a minute should be 60 seconds and an hour should be 60 minutes? These are all questions I've been asking myself recently. And I've come to realize that while time itself was created by God, its perception was created by humanity and materialized by these clocks we've put on the wall. You see, there's nowhere in this world you can go and not find a clock. And that's because we as society put them there to remind you. You see, society says you should brush your teeth for 2 minutes. Society says you should sleep for 8 hours. Society says you should be done school by 22, have a career by 25, a family by 30, be successful by 40, and retire by 60. You see, we've created this one-size-fits-all timeline for life, thinking we can all wear the same clothes. And when we personally realize that they don't fit, we blame it on ourselves, acting like we've gained weight. Stop letting society's clock dictate when you show up. My time is different from your time. And just because you're not where society says you should be at this point in your life doesn't make you late. It makes you, you.
Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pesto.
Susie,
That is so crazy. Okay, my story is not as crazy as yours, but my mom has always been a dreamer. She's always been able to see things in dreams, and sometimes people from the beyond would visit her in her dreams and tell her things. For example, my mom was born in a really small village in Nigeria, and in this small village, no one there had ever seen a white person before. But in her dream, she saw a man that was bearded, and a white man was officiating their wedding. And when she would tell people this, people would laugh at her because, again, no one had ever seen a white person, and it was inconceivable for a white person to come and visit this village, right? And when suitors started popping up asking for my mom's hand in marriage, she would turn them down because she had learnt to trust her dreams. And she was like, if this is not the man that I saw in my dreams, the answer is no. A few months later, my dad, who was working in Europe, decided to visit this village. And when he saw my mom from afar, he was in love, he was smitten. And so he asked for my mom's hand in marriage. And when my mom saw him, she knew this was the man from her dreams. And so she said yes. They did the traditional wedding 2 days later, and then they flew to Italy, where my dad was based, and a white man officiated their white wedding, just like she saw in her dreams. So they started a family. And my mom had 2 girls, my 2 older sisters. And when she was heavily pregnant with me, she decided to not find out the gender. Because with my 2 sisters, they were wrong. They told her they were having 2 boys, and she ended up having 2 girls. So she was like, I'm not finding out the gender. I'm just going to be surprised, but I'm hoping for a boy. One day, her mother unfortunately passed away. But because her sisters knew that she was heavily pregnant, they decided not to tell her. So they kind of kept it quiet for a few months. And they were like, when she gives birth, we will tell her. And so my mom went unaware for months. This was the 90s, before instant messaging and all of that. So one day, as my mom slept, she had a dream. And in this dream, she saw 10 bassinets, and each bassinet had a baby in it. The first one had a girl, and the 9 after that were all boys. And so my mom in the dream was like, oh my goodness, I want a boy. And so she picked one boy, and she started picking all the boys up, and she was trying to pick as many as she could. And as she was picking them, she heard a voice saying, drop all the boys. And she looked up, and she saw her mother in the dream. And her mother came to her and said, honey, pick up the girl. And my mom was like, no, I already have 2 girls. I want boys. I want boys now. And her mother was like, I said, drop the boys and pick up the girl. And then I promise you, every baby you have after this will be a boy. And so my mom, a bit upset, dropped the boys and picked up the girl. And as she picked up the girl, she woke up. And in that moment, she knew that her mother was dead. And so she picked up the phone. And as she called her mom, of course, her mom didn't pick up the phone. So she ended up calling her sisters, who then eventually had to tell her that unfortunately their mom passed away a few months prior. Of course, telling that to a heavily pregnant woman caused nothing but anxiety. So my mom went into early labor. And as she was in labor, she gave birth to me. But before she could even react to that, the doctors noticed this mark in my ear. And when my mom saw that, she remembered the dream she had, because her mother, my grandma, had the same exact mark on her right ear, just like I did. And so my mom paused and realized that she was carrying in her arms a reincarnation of her mother. And the strange thing is that I sound just like her, I look just like her, I act just like her, and my mom is convinced I am her. And sometimes I have memories that are not my own. And her mother was right, because after me, my mom gave birth to my brother. And then she said, 4 is more than enough, I'm done, okay? And I'm sure if she had continued having kids, she would have had 9 extra boys, if that makes sense. Anyway, that is crazy, but not as crazy as you, Susie, with your pesto.
Can I please go live in the woods for free? What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, I just want to go live in the woods. Like, I can't do this. You're asking me to sell you my entire life just to live with air conditioning? Like, I can't. You made me spend 18 years in school jail. No. The fuck do you mean? It's the woods. I don't care if I croak. I don't care what happens out there. I just want to go live in the woods. Like, yeah, no. What if I go really far? Yeah, we're gonna log that. We'll send men with
Bottle
guns,
rockets,
kidnap you and put you in a cage, okay? Don't fucking try it. Okay, fuck. So I live on the streets? That would be illegal. To exist on the streets? What are you, a vagrant? I didn't ask to be born. Shut the fuck up. Okay, well, I'm lucky that there's a creek where I exist, but you can't really drink it. You could drink it if you were inside. The water? Okay, and I'm kind of fucking hungry because none of the trees make fruit. You wouldn't let me do the woods thing. There's nowhere for me to grow a garden. You want me to pay you to catch a fish? Our fish. Okay, is this a forced labor camp? No. Okay, so I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't drink water, and you're forcing me to sell my time and my work to other people in order to exist without you kidnapping me and putting me in a cage. Is that correct? Okay, it sounds like a forced labor camp. What are you gonna do about it? Didn't you say something about inalienable rights? Those words ring a bell. That's cute, yeah. I paid attention.
What's a scam that's become so normalized that we don't even realize it's a scam anymore?
Your entire fucking life. 1 through 7, you're in a hypnotic state, getting taught the thoughts that your parents were thinking, usually like 30 years ago. And depending on where your parents are in life, that's probably where you're heading, because that's something called programming. If you're depressed, well, it's probably because your parents were depressed. And now you're going to go find depression. You're literally going to seek a depressed life because your parents had a depressed life, because that is the circuitry in your brain. Now, let's assume you went to a school and you learned a bunch of things. I bet you they made you read books that weren't really useful for your life. They didn't teach you the thoughts that you needed to be thinking. They taught you a bunch of nonsense. Like, I remember reading the book about Old Yeller. I didn't really learn shit about life reading that book, but apparently that was a book that we were supposed to read. And then the rest of the educational system, just kind of botched and useless. If you graduate high school, well, guess what? You either go ahead and create something of your own by failing and 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 finally getting it right, and then getting really right at it, and then getting really good at it, to the point where you're going to be able to teach other people at it. Or you ended up going to college, where you learned a bunch of information that really didn't make sense. So, like, the average conversation I have with a person that's also in the health and wellness field, it doesn't really make sense to me, because I'm like, you didn't read any of these books, and all the information you're talking about doesn't make sense. Like when somebody that says type 2 diabetes can't be reversed naturally, that makes no sense. It's just obviously a better monetary choice to give a person a surgery, because it's a hospital where they feed you shit food, and then you get sick, then you go to the hospital, then they give you more drugs to make you feel better. Yeah, it's a little fucked up. So, biggest scam in our world is the entire life. Every single thing that we do is revolving around money. Guess what? You wear clothes. They probably costed money. You drive a car. That costs money. You have to have car insurance. Literally. Every single thing that I can possibly think of is a scam, so I can literally go on all day long. Like a sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffin. Why does it have 92% of a daily value of cholesterol based on a 2,000 calorie diet, assuming that a woman doesn't eat 2,000 calories, that's more than 100% of her daily value of cholesterol, and it's going to oxidize her LDL and go to her brain and cause problems? A little weird. Anyways, what can you learn if you listen this far? Read a shit ton of books. Read so many goddamn books to the point that everybody that's in your life falls out of your life because they just don't get you anymore. Or actually, you don't get them because you're just confused why they complicate everything when things aren't complicated. People talk about the Matrix, right? I'm going to leave you with this one. We're in the fucking Matrix right now. Every single person that's watching a video online is in the damn Matrix. There is no leaving the fucking Matrix. It is a game that you're playing. We're all playing. It's called sounds that may or may not be valuable to your ears, and then using those sounds to interface your reality by looking at shit. It's not what you see, it's what you know about what you see, because that's how you feel. It's like when I look at a phone, I'm like, alright, I'm going to make a TikTok. I'm going to talk about some shit that may or may not be relevant to a person, and some people might listen to it. It's either going to change a person's life or not change their life, and that's my alarm to go off to make myself breathe, because I need to be reminding myself to be conscious. Because if you're not breathing, then you're not conscious. You ever notice that thing? How many breaths did you take in the past 30 seconds? You have no clue. How many times did I blink since watching this video? Probably 0. Read a shit ton of books. You want to change anything or not be scammed or screwed over in your life? Read a shit ton of books. Because you were taught a thought and you're thinking it now, and every single thing that we're taught is just how to be a good human being that doesn't change the world, that just shows up every day and does the same thing over and over. So follow this